Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Pokemon Go video. Larvitar was officially announced today as the June 16th Pokemon Go Community Day Pokemon. Now, before we go ahead and dive into the main topics of this video, there are a couple things that I want to go over. The first thing being is that the exclusive move for Tyranitar when you evolve Pupitar to Tyranitar on Community Day is that it's going to be Smackdown. Now, this was leaked by the Chinese and Japanese Pokemon Go pages. I guess they forgot to take it out or something like that. Whatever the case may be, we've already gotten confirmation that it was going to be Smackdown, and there was a lot of speculation even before this was announced. So yeah, Smackdown is going to be the exclusive move for Tyranitar. Now this is going to be a fast move, not a charge move, and it'll make Tyranitar the best rock-type Pokemon in the game, even more than Golem. So if you're able to get your Tyranitar on Community Day with Smackdown and Stone Edge, it is going to deal so much damage, guys. So much damage that you could potentially duo Ho-Oh and Moltres. So this is huge, guys. I mean, with Golems, you could trio Moltres and Ho-Oh at best. Definitely going to be something you want to get your hands on. Over the past couple of community days, I've learned a lot from playing, and I've learned that there are a lot of things that could really benefit you if you prepare for them in advance. So let's go ahead and dive into the top 10 best ways to prepare for Larvitar Community Day on June 16th. Now, these are going to be in no particular order. These are all very, very useful tips. And the first one is going to be stockpile on pineapple berries, guys. Make sure you stock up on a lot of pineapple berries. I recommend stockpiling on at least 100 pineapple berries at the very least. The reason for this is because you can build so much candy on Community Day by catching literally every Larvitar you see, or whatever the Community Day Pokemon is. Obviously, in this case, it's Larvitar. But the point being is that in the past, I've gotten over 1,000 candy, guys, alone on Community Day just by pineapple berrying everything I see. If you caught 100 Larvitar on Community Day with pineapple berries, that's 600 candy right there, not including the fact that you can transfer all those Pokemon as well. That's an additional 100 candy, and that is more than enough to evolve at least 4 or 5 Tyranitar, but let's just go ahead and assume that you can get about 150 Larvitar on Community Day. That's 900 candy, guys. That is enough to evolve a full team of Tyranitar with Smackdown and Stone Edge. That is huge. Like, that is so important. So it is by far one of the best things to do as you can prepare way in advance for it. Just go through and just stockpile on as many pineapple berries as you possibly can. Like I said, I recommend 100 at least. Now the next tip is going to be using the catch trick. If you guys are not familiar with this, I'll go ahead and leave a link to that right here as well as at the end of the video. This is by far the fastest way to catch Pokemon in Pokemon Go, guys, and it's incredibly simple too. Now using this catch trick is very essential to Community Day given the bonuses, especially this bonus being 3 times experience on all catches. Catching as many Pokemon as you possibly can during that 3-hour window is extremely important, so using the catch trick will save you so much time. Now with that being said, the next tip I want to go over goes hand in hand with using the catch trick. So what you want to do is you want to trash all of your Pokeballs and you want to prioritize keeping Great Balls and Ultra Balls. Using Great Balls and Ultra Balls will significantly increase your catch rate, and not only that, if you discard all of your Pokeballs, the first Pokeball that you will click on as soon as you open up the catch screen is going to be a Great Ball. So that not only increases your catch rate, but it saves you time by not having to scroll to the right and click on a Great Ball. Now the next thing that I recommend that you guys do before prepping for Community Day is find somewhere that will most likely be sunny all day long, or at least during the time window for Community Day. The reason I say that is because Larvitar gets a sunny weather boost because it is a ground type Pokemon. So if you're getting boosted Larvitar, not only will it save you Stardust in the long run, but you'll most likely get better IVs through the weather boost. So I highly recommend finding somewhere that is most likely going to be sunny for the entirety of the day, and so that way you can get boosted Larvitars and potentially even boosted Shiny Larvitars. Moving on over to tip number 5. Okay, so this one is a little bit more difficult in the sense that it's going to be really hard to find this quest, but there is a quest that awards a Larvitar. That quest is going to be throw 3 excellent curveballs in a row. Now I know that this quest is actually pretty difficult, especially if you're not an avid Pokemon Go player, but I'd highly recommend trying to find a good trainer in your area that is actually pretty consistent with excellent throws and get them to help you out with this. They can most likely do it fairly easily, but the main issue is actually finding this quest because this is an extremely rare quest to find. I think I've maybe only gotten this quest twice in the entire time the quests have been released, so it's going to be really difficult to find them, but it's your best chance to get a good IV Larvitar Larvitar before Community Day. And ultimately, that's going to save you a lot of time IV checking in the long run. I know there are a lot of people that have a lot of 100% IV Larvitars before, you know, when maps were still going on. Unfortunately, I am not one of them. I don't have any 100% IV Larvitars left over. I know a lot of people in my community have them, but I am not one of them. I already evolved my 100% IV Larvitars a long time ago, so I really need to find a couple of these quests and really try and get a couple of Larvitars with 15 attack. That would be the most ideal option for me. But if not, we just gotta play the gambling game on Community Day and hope we get something good. Either way though, if you can get your hands on one of these quests with the 3 excellent curveballs in a row, you're gonna have a really good chance of getting a high IV Larvitar, and that's pretty much the best way to get high IV Larvitars at the moment. We do have Tyranitar Raids, but as mentioned in the Pokemon Go official post, you cannot TM the moveset on Tyranitar. You have to evolve it from Pupitar to Tyranitar, unfortunately. So it is essential to find good IV Larvitar at the moment if you don't have them already. The next tip is going to be more relative to while you're playing on Community Day. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set a timer for every 30 minutes to drop a Lucky Egg. Like I said earlier on, you're going to be getting 3 times the experience on all catches. So you're going to want to have a Lucky Egg on the entire time. If you keep missing every 2 to 3 minutes, in the long run, that's going to be over 10 minutes of lost Lucky Egg potential. You don't want that. You're going to want to make sure you're dropping a Lucky Egg every 30 minutes, guys, to get the maximum potential out of the 3 times experience. So that is my recommendation. On top of that though, you're also going to want to set a timer 15 to 20 minutes before the event ends, depending on where you live. For me, that is going to be 2 o'clock, so I'm going to want to set the timer around 1:40. This way I can go through, IV check all of my best Larvitar, and evolve them to Tyranitar. That way they get Smackdown. This is essential, guys. You want to make sure you set a timer, because I've seen this happen so many times where people forget, they get too caught up in catching Pokemon, and they completely forget to evolve their base Pokemon into the final evolution to get the specific moveset. Also, another tip for those of you guys who actually have your really good IV Larvitars as well as the candy to evolve them, as soon as the event starts, go ahead and just evolve them and get them out of the way. Honestly, a lot of people don't actually have them, but for those of you that do, it'll save you so much time in the long run because you already know your best IVs, you already have the candy. Just get Smackdown right at the beginning. That way you don't even have to worry about it towards the end of the event, because I'm going to tell you that right now from experience, IV checking everything like 20 minutes before the event ends sucks, guys. It is literally the worst thing ever. You feel so rushed, and if you don't find the right ones with 15 attack, you're gonna feel terrible after you go through and IV check everything after the event's over. Trust me, that's how I felt on the Charizard Community Day. I missed out on a lot of potentially good IV Charmanders that I could have evolved, and I really do regret it. So it's definitely something that I recommend for those of you guys who already have the good IVs, you already have the candy, just knock it out at the start of the event. That's the best thing that you could do. Okay, so the next thing that I want to go over is that if you see a Tyranitar Raid at any point during the event, if you see a Tyranitar Raid, do it. Or if you see a wild Tyranitar, obviously catch it. But if you catch a Tyranitar, regardless if you catch it from a raid or if you catch it in the wild, it'll already have Smackdown as the moveset. So that'll save you some candy right there on evolving, especially if you get a really good IV. So with that being said, let's move on over to the next tip right here, which is going to be to print out the 100% IV chart on Larvitar. If you take the time and study the chart, you can save yourself so much time IV checking in the long run, because you'll already know if you got a really good IV. There's usually a lot of people that put out the IV charts, and on the last Community Day for Charmander, there was even someone who put out the IV charts for everything from 100% IV all the way down to 93, which really helped out a lot. And even if you don't take the time to memorize the entire thing, even if you just have the printed out version with you as you're hunting down Larvitar on Community Day, it'll save you a lot of time instead of IV checking every single one. Trust me, it will come in handy. So those are going to be the top 10 best ways to prepare for the Larvitar Community Day on June 16. Now I do have one final tip for you guys, and this is more based on my own experience. If you find a Larvitar with under 80% IVs, but it has 15 attack, make sure you favorite that Larvitar. I know a lot of people out there are very particular about having everything like 90% IV or higher, but a lot of them don't realize that the attack stat actually matters the most out of having that. So if you have like a 91% IV, but it only has 12 attack, it's really bad compared to like maybe like a 67% IV with 15 attack, because it's gonna do a lot more damage in the long run, especially because it's more likely to meet the next breakpoint. If you guys don't know what breakpoint breakpoints are, go ahead and look it up on Game Press. They do a pretty good job at explaining it, but I don't have enough time to explain the entirety of breakpoints in this video. But just know that if you find a Larvitar with 15 attack, that is the one that you're gonna want to keep. Even if you can't get something that's like 90% IV or higher, Larvitars with 15 attack, regardless of like what IV it is, those are gonna be the best ones to evolve, because those are gonna be the ones that matter when it comes down to using them in raids. So just something that I wanted to throw out there as somewhat of a bonus tip. It's not necessarily like super relevant to the top 10 best ways to prepare, but it's definitely something that I found is very, very important to consider when you're evolving Pokemon, especially when it comes down to building these really strong teams. But with that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy this video and found it helpful. If you did, feel free to hit that like button down below. As always, I'd really appreciate it. And if you'd like to see more Pokemon Go content, make sure to hit that subscribe button for future videos. And I will see you all real soon in the next one.